Well, the election season is drawing near, and we're starting to see some candidates filing for different elected offices here in Chelan and Douglas County. Joining us right now on NCW Live is a candidate who is seeking election to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Joining us right now, Leeon Leyde, who's currently an officer with the East Wenatchee Police Department. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve.
Leeon, first of all, let's learn a little bit more about you, your background and experience. I understand that you've served quite a bit of time as a former trooper with the Washington State Patrol.
Yes, I started with the Washington State Patrol in 1987 as a trooper cadet. 1989, I was commissioned as a trooper in South Linwood. I worked there for a couple of years and went out to Monroe, which is where I grew up, Salton, Monroe area. I spent 5 years there, and in 1996 I moved over here to Wenatchee as a trooper. In June of 2000, I was promoted to a sergeant, and I went to Marysville as a sergeant. Came back about a year and a half to 2 years later, much sooner than I expected, which was great because this is where I wanted to come back. And I was a sergeant here from when I got back was about 2002 to 2012. When I retired from the Washington State Patrol as a sergeant in August of 2012. 3 days later, I went to work as a patrol officer with the city of East Wenatchee.
Why did you select East Wenatchee?
There were some folks there that I knew. A retired sergeant was hired with East Wenatchee several years before I got there, and we worked together, so that was one of the things. And I knew some of the officers, so I felt it was a good fix for me.
Now, during your time in law enforcement, I understand that you've won quite a few awards as well.
Well, I was in Monroe, Marysville area. I did get awards for outstanding efforts in DUI enforcement. Also got an Auto Theft Trooper of the Year award. That's where you get the most. You got points for certain. If you got an occupied stolen, you got more points. You got an abandoned stolen, you got a certain number of points, and so you got the best in the entire district, which is all of Snohomish and Whatcom and Skagit County. And when I came here, when I first started with East Wenatchee, I got 3 years in a row, I got the top DUI enforcement officer for East Wenatchee. And I believe it was 2014, I got a Medal of Valor award for getting a young man out of a car that was engulfed in flames. So that's it.
Pretty much, you've really done a variety of things in law enforcement, obviously, but let's talk about your approach to law enforcement. I think the trend now is towards community policing, becoming more a part of the community. And your thoughts on that, I guess, on how that's being done by the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, the position that you're running for.
Well, the community policing is not anything new. It's been around for many, many years. It's just the different approaches agencies have with it. With the patrol, we were doing it a long time ago. Douglas County, my thoughts are you've got to get your stakeholders together, your partners, which are your East Wenatchee Police, and you reach across the river to Chelan County, Wenatchee Police Department, the Washington State Patrol. They should all be involved. They're your stakeholders, or your partners, pardon. Then you've got your stakeholders, which are businesses, the leaders in the community, your schools. You go out to neighborhoods and you meet with neighborhood watch groups and those kinds of things, and you get your officers and your deputies and your all wanting to be involved in this. And you know, when I get to work day shift, I'm waving at people all the time. That's just the way I am. If I see a lemonade stand with kids selling lemonade, that's all part of it. You stop and you buy a cup of lemonade. You support that type of stuff. The people see that. And that's important to me. That's how I envision law enforcement a lot of times, is we need to be out there and making friends.
What's the difference between being a trooper, a police officer, and a deputy? I mean, how?
Wow. Being a trooper, well, I'll tell you, when I was in high school, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a trooper. Awesome uniform, the campaign hat, and the fast patrol cars. I still get teased about, I still have a hat ring on my forehead because it was what I started and I loved it. You know, you're dealing with different people. You're stopping cars for speeding, seatbelt violation, aggressive driving, DUIs, you're handling collisions. You go to being a police officer, it's a whole different element. You're dealing with disputes, trespassing, harassment, civil issues, bar fights, and domestics are just some of the most dangerous situations you can get into. And you have more help because you're in a smaller area, in a smaller setting. You usually have more officers to help you. When I was a trooper, I was by myself. You learn to be very humble. It would take 30 minutes before I would get back up. Douglas County, it's very spaced. You know, the deputies don't have as much backup right away. So it's totally different in each aspect.
Larger area to cover,
Yes.
certainly, and it's mostly rural as well. That poses problems, I would imagine, in terms of budgeting and manpower and that type of thing.
Yes, absolutely. You have to rely on your tax base, and you have to work closely with the commissioners. They control a lot of stuff.
If there was one thing that you could improve upon at the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, what would that be?
Well, I feel that Douglas County Sheriff's Department has, in my opinion, isolated themselves from the other agencies, and they don't work. I see it. You've got the Columbia River Drug Task Force. They don't have anybody in that task force, and they haven't had anybody in since 2005. East Wenatchee does, Chelan does, Wenatchee, the State Patrol does. All these agencies are involved. What a better way to learn? You get a detective or an officer in the task force. They develop leads, they develop things in their own county, and do follow-up. They're involved, they know the people, and then they start working cases. I mean, heroin is a huge thing in this valley. I never saw it as a trooper or a sergeant. We just didn't see it. But when I came to East Wenatchee, I started seeing it, and people are dying, or they're coming back to life because they get the Narcan, I believe it is. They get that and they come back to life. You know, very fortunate. So we need to, as if I were elected, I'd reach across this river and make some real friends with the Chelan County Sheriff's Department, Wenatchee PD, and the State Patrol.
If there's a difficult question that I would have to ask you right now, it's topical. Certainly, we're going through this rash of school violence and mass shootings and such. Do you feel that the students and parents of Douglas County are well served right now in terms of campus security?
Well, I feel that we need to sit down and have some serious talks with our partners at East Wenatchee, the State Patrol, Wenatchee, Chelan County. We need to sit down at a table and talk about what we can do to make the schools safer. We need to protect our schools, protect our students, our teachers, and we have to have joint training together so we know it's one model. You know, we can't do it ourselves. If we all get together, we have one model to go into a school, and if a situation arises, everybody knows what they're doing. And so you get people together, you get all your stakeholders, your business leaders, the neighbors from the schools, get together with them and tell them some of the things that we're going to have to do, what might happen if an active shooter is going on, where we might take the students and those things. We can't share everything, but getting business folks, the law enforcement, and I would like, there's a lot of options, whether you hire retired law enforcement officers to be put into these schools, you hire security, armed security. I mean, you have to sit down and talk with everybody. Everybody's got an idea. We put it all together, we come up with the best ideas we can.
Again, we're talking with Leeon Leyde. He's a candidate running for Douglas County Sheriff in the upcoming election. You will be running as a Republican, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other thoughts or ideas you'd like to share with our viewers here on NCW Life before we let you go?
I would like to say that I have written down a lot of folks that have Kittitas County Sheriff, Gene Dana, 5-term sheriff, ex-Washington State Patrol Sergeant, retired, the Snohomish County Sheriff, and then the executive were retired State Patrol Sergeant, who I started my career with in Linwood. He's a House of Representative member now, and he was before. Island County, the former chief of Wenatchee was a retired State Patrol. Monroe Police Chief is a retired State Patrol. There are a lot of, they train their people well. And so the people need to know that there's good people that come out of that agency that are leading big sheriff's departments and cities.
Absolutely.
You know, so they train their people well.
I guess there's one more question I could kind of throw in here. Douglas County, of course, incarcerates its suspects at Okanagan County Jail. Was that a good move, and do you think that should continue?
Well, there's been some, I don't remember how long ago they started doing that, probably 3 years ago maybe a little longer than that. The cost of a bed here in Chelan County was a lot higher, so they figured that they could contract with Okanagan County and save a lot of money. So that's something I have to look at. There's some other things in the budget that I need to look at as well. So is it a good move? I've got to do a lot more study on it. I can't say absolutely, but we do have to transport them. How much does that cost, transporting them back and forth? We have to look at that. And the commissioners obviously have looked at it. They're on board with it. So.
Well, I certainly wish you the best of luck in your endeavors here, and thank you for stopping by and talking to our viewers here at NCW Life. But again, it's Leeon Leyde, running as a Republican for Douglas County Sheriff. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.